Have you ever woken up and felt like the weight of the world was pressing down on your chest, but you couldn't quite explain why? It wasn't sadness in the traditional sense. It was something softer, something quieter, yet heavy all the same. That's what depression after 60 feels like. And I know, because I lived it. Today, I want to share my story with you, not as a doctor, not as an expert, but as someone who found their way back to light after drifting in the dark. It began in the most unremarkable way. No tragic event, no dramatic breakdown, just a slow, silent shift. I stopped enjoying my morning tea. I didn't want to answer phone calls. I found myself sitting in the same chair for hours, staring out the window without really seeing anything. Life had become muted. And for a while, I told myself it was just part of aging. That's what happens when you retire, I thought. When the kids grow up, when the house gets quieter, this is just how it is. But deep down, I knew, this wasn't living. This was fading. Then one morning, I looked at my reflection, tired eyes, dull skin, the same nightgown for the third day in a row, and I whispered the words. I think I'm depressed. It wasn't easy to say. There's a stigma, especially for people my age. We were raised to be strong, to push through, to keep our feelings to ourselves and just get on with it. But naming the feeling was the first step toward healing it. I didn't go to a psychiatrist that day. I didn't get on medication, though I don't judge those who do. Instead, I started with the tiniest acts of self-kindness. I opened the curtains. That was it. That was my first step. I let the sunlight touch my face. I stood by the window and just breathed. Then I made my bed. Not perfectly, just enough to create order in my space, and maybe a little order in my mind. These little things, they didn't cure me, but they reminded me that I could still make choices. And every choice I made was like a breadcrumb, leading me out of the woods. One of the most powerful tools I used was writing. I bought a simple notebook and started a habit. Every morning, I'd write down 3 things I was grateful for. Some days, it was hard. I'd write, I'm grateful for warm socks. I'm grateful for the birds outside. I'm grateful that I got out of bed. And some days, I cried as I wrote. But over time, I began to see patterns. Moments of beauty I would have missed. A blooming flower, a stranger's smile, a memory of my mother's laugh. Gratitude didn't change my situation. It changed how I saw my situation. Another thing that helped was walking. I didn't start with miles. I started with steps. I'd walk to the end of the driveway and back. Then around the block. Eventually, I found myself at the park, watching children play, old couples holding hands, trees swaying in the breeze. Movement has a way of waking up emotions that have gone numb. Even 10 minutes outside gave my brain the message, we're still alive. We're still part of the world. Now let's talk about food, not in a diet sense, but as nourishment. Depression can be worsened by what we eat, or don't eat. For months, I was living off toast and tea. Easy, yes, but empty. Slowly, I began introducing foods that feed the brain. Fresh fruits, especially berries. Leafy greens like spinach, walnuts and flaxseed for healthy fats. A little dark chocolate for joy. And water. So much water. It sounds so basic, but our brains, especially as we age, rely on hydration and proper nutrients. Then came sleep, or rather, the lack of it. Depression made my nights long and restless. I'd lie awake thinking about everything I'd done wrong in life. Mistakes I couldn't undo. Words I wished I had said, or hadn't said. Sleep became a battle, so I made a nighttime ritual. I turned off the TV an hour before bed. I lit a lavender candle. I played gentle instrumental music. I started reading old poetry books. And I whispered kind things to myself before closing my eyes. You're doing your best. You are enough. You made it through today. And slowly, sleep returned. Another surprising thing that helped me was helping others. I started volunteering at the local library. Reading to children, organizing books, chatting with other retirees. Giving, even in small ways, made me feel valuable again. When you live alone, it's easy to feel invisible. But when someone smiles because of you, even just for a moment, you remember your worth. There's something else I want to talk about, something people don't mention enough, forgiveness. I had to forgive myself. For the bad choices, for the failed relationships, for not being the perfect mother, for wasting time, for hurting people, for staying silent, for everything I had carried in my heart like stones. I wrote letters to my younger self. I cried, I prayed, and I let go. Depression often clings to guilt. And healing means loosening that grip. There was also the role of nature in my recovery. I started a tiny garden. Just a few pots at first, basil, mint, some marigolds. But there's something deeply spiritual about watching something grow. You water it, you wait, you protect it from harsh winds. And one day, it blooms. Just like we do. And then, there was silence. I used to hate silence. I'd fill it with TV or background noise. But now, I welcome it. I sit quietly in the morning with my tea. I listen to birdsong. I journal. And in that silence, I find peace. Depression isn't something you just snap out of. It's a fog that lifts slowly, like morning mist revealing the land beneath. But it does lift. And if you're watching this, and you feel numb, tired, or invisible, please hear me. You are not broken. You are not too old to heal. You are not a burden. You are still here, and that means your story isn't over yet. Start small. Open a window. Step outside. Write something kind to yourself. Drink a glass of water. Call someone. Make your bed. Watch the sunrise. Let these little things remind you that you are still capable of joy. You have lived through so much. And still, you rise. This isn't the end. This is the beginning of a gentler, wiser, more beautiful chapter. From one heart to another, I believe in you, and I hope, more than anything, that you begin to believe in yourself too. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, don't forget to like, subscribe and follow for more inspiration. See you in the next one.